Islam has a long history in China. Islamic encounters in China began during the Rashidun Caliphate, coinciding with the rule of the Tang Dynasty from 618–907 AD. It is said that Islam spread in China through maritime trade routes. At that time, the Chinese government was already trading with Persians, Arabs, and Indians. Specifically, Caliph Uthman bin Affan sent his envoy, Sa'ad bin Abi Waqqas, to meet Emperor Yang Hui in 651 AD. The meeting between Sa'ad bin Abi Waqqas's friend and Emperor Yang Hui was the beginning of the establishment of diplomatic relations between China and Islamic countries. The milestone of Islamic Chinese diplomatic success was the establishment of the Huaisheng Mosque, or Sa'ad bin Abi Waqqas Mosque in Guangzhou. The mosque is claimed to be the oldest mosque in mainland China, more than 1,300 years old. On the other hand, the increasingly developed sea and land trade routes made many Islamic traders settle permanently in China. During the Mongol rule in China, Islamic traders helped with expansion. Their presence spread to remote areas of China. These Muslims also married and had children with local residents. Their generation was called Hui Huis. Then during the Yuan Dynasty, 1271 to 1368, they were given positions, high social status, and social security. Therefore, many Muslims from the Arabian Peninsula and surrounding areas came to China. In 1368 AD, the Yuan dynasty collapsed and was replaced by the Ming dynasty, 1368 to 1644 AD. The situation turned around. Islamic activities are increasingly restricted. One of the famous Islamic figures at that time was Zheng He, or better known as Cheng Ho. He received an order from Emperor Ming-Ji Di, 1402 to 1424, to sail for 28 years. This was later considered a milestone in the spread of Hui Huis Islam from China. Cheng Ho, who sailed through the Indian Ocean, Persian Gulf, Red Sea, and the east coast of Africa, left many Chinese Islamic legacies in more than 30 countries, including Indonesia. The Ming dynasty reformed the government system and bureaucracy by reducing the political status of the Hui Huis, limiting trade with outside China, and prohibiting same-race marriages, which resulted in the splitting of the Hui Huis ethnic group. This ethnicity is divided into 10 parts with two different religious systems, namely Sunni and Menhuans, Sufi. The Sunni sect of Islam adhered to by people in the Xinjiang region includes Uyghurs, Kazakhs, Khalkha, Uzbeks, Tartars, except Tajiks who adhere to Shia. Then, Menhuans was adopted by Muslims in the interior of China, including Hui, Salas, Dongxiang, and Bao'an. Islamic Dawah strategy in China. Islam entered China through diplomatic and trade routes starting in the 7th century AD. At that time, most of China's population was Buddhist, but Chinese people could accept Islam openly. This shows that Islam is able to adapt and does not clash with local trends. Not only that, the adaptation carried out by Islam with local Chinese society formed a new culture. For example, from an architectural perspective, the roof of a Chinese mosque is in the form of a temple, adapting to local architecture, saying prayers with Chinese pronunciation, translating the Holy Quran into Chinese, grave pilgrimage, and tahlil adapted from Confucius Qiao's form of devotion, as well as make Chinese calligraphy writing, which is usually called kat. The current situation of Muslims in China. In 2022, the estimated Muslim population in China will be around 28,127,500, around 1.73% of China's total population. The famous Islamic organization in China is the Chinese Muslim Association, which was formed in 1952. According to the chairman of the Islamic Association, Guo Chengzhen, in 2010, around 40,000 mosques had been built in China. The number of mosques continues to increase from year to year. In addition, the Chinese government exempts Muslims from carrying out religious activities because their existence is protected by valid national laws. During Ramadan and Eid al-Fitr too, mosques in China are always crowded with Muslim people. When it comes to food, Chinese Muslims have no difficulty getting halal food because many halal restaurants have been built throughout China. This is the history of Islam entering China. A number of historians note that Islam began to enter China in the early 7th century, namely around 678 AD, during the reign of the Tang Dynasty. In Qiu Tahangshu's history book, for example, it is stated that the Chinese government received a diplomatic visit from an Arab kingdom during the time of Caliph Uthman bin Affan. At that time, Caliph Uthman sent Sa'ad bin Abi Waqqas and 15 of his colleagues to bring Islamic teachings to mainland China. Like tit for tat, they were then openly accepted by Emperor Yonghui from the Tang Dynasty. The emperor even allowed the construction of the Huaisheng Mosque or Memorial Mosque in Canton, the first mosque in mainland China. Since then, Islam has gradually begun to develop in the Bamboo Curtain country. There are two main routes for the spread of Islam in China, namely by land, or what is usually called the Silk Route, and by sea via shipping, aka the Pepper Route. Apart from the envoys of Caliph Uthman, the arrival of Islam to China was also brought by merchants from Arabia and Persia. The first Chinese people to embrace Islam were the Huichi ethnic group. Since then, the number of followers of Islam in China has increased. Even during the Song dynasty's rule, a number of Muslim traders controlled the export and import industry in China. At that time, the government always handed over the position of Director General of Shipping to Muslims. Today, Muslims in China are still a minority. However, the government's policy of separating religious and state matters means that Muslims remain free to carry out their worship. Even though it is a communist country, until 2012 China was recorded as having no less than 45,000 mosques. This figure is expected to continue to increase, especially in cities where many Muslims adhere to it, such as in Xinjiang and Ningxia, Guilin and Zhengzhou. Last week, Ditaik News visited 3 cities in China where Muslim communities live, namely Guilin, Zhengzhou, and Beijing. A number of administrators of mosques and Islamic schools met by Ditaik News admitted that the Chinese government also provided financial assistance for the construction of places of worship and educational institutions. The 3 main buildings at the front of this mosque receive financial assistance from the government, said Haji Yusuf, Imam at the Beita Mosque in Zhengzhou last Friday, 2510.